Hey everybody, welcome back to Why Not RV. On this week's episode, we're doing a massive upgrade to our electrical system. Let me start by breaking down what we're doing this week. First, we're replacing our old inverter and converter with the Victron Energy Multiplus 3000. We also got the Bluetooth dongle for it. We're also going to be putting in the Progressive Industries EMS system, Hardwired, and that has a little screen for it as well. I got my 6 gauge wire that I need for running the power over here out of my EMS. And we're also adding another battery to our battery bank. We learned on this trip so far that we just needed a little bit more juice to make it through the night for our overnight needs before charging during the day. So we went ahead and got this Group 4D battery, and it is a beast. It's 120 pounds. It's an AGM 200 amp hour battery, and we're going to see how this thing works out for us. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more and make less mistakes while RVing. Here's a very simple wiring diagram just to kind of show you guys how this Multiplus works as an inverter hybrid system. So the shore power comes in. You have 4 wires for a 50 amp circuit: leg 1, neutral, leg 2, and ground. Those are going to go through our EMS system, which is nothing more than a protectant for the RV. You know, protects against low voltage, surge, all that kind of stuff. Out of the EMS comes leg 1, which is just going to go straight into our AC panel. The rest of the stuff that comes out of the EMS, which is leg 2, neutral, and ground, goes into the Multiplus and back out into the AC panel. Under regular conditions, that's what happens. It just goes straight through. The Multiplus doesn't do anything. It just goes straight through it into the AC panel. Now, once you lose power from shore, it starts pulling from the batteries for leg 2, neutral, and ground automatically. You never even see it skip a beat. Meanwhile, leg 1 is gone. You lost power at shore, so leg 1's gone. You don't have that in your AC panel, so whatever was on that leg 1 circuit is not usable. But the Multiplus is powering leg 2, which for me has all of our outlets. It has a fridge, it has a front air conditioner, has everything on there that I wanted on there because I rearranged my circuits that way back when I did my first inverter install. So if you need to watch that video, go back and look at that and you can see how I did that stuff. Now, as a hybrid system, what the Multiplus does is if for some reason you're plugged in to shore power, but you're plugged into, say, 15 amp. So you're at a 15 amp, regular wall outlet at your friend's house. You tell your Multiplus, hey, I'm on 15 amps, do not pull more than 15 amps. What will happen is if your AC panel calls for 16 amps, 17 amps, 20 amps, whatever it is, for air conditioner to turn on, or you have too many things going, whatever the case is, when that happens, the Multiplus will pull from the battery while still pulling from the shoreline. So it has 15 amps coming through from the shore, and whatever extra comes right from the batteries and gets fed through leg 2 into the panel. And again, that only works for leg 2. Leg 1 will still overload the circuit if you have your other air conditioner on it and you're on a 15 amp plug. It'll overload it and it'll blow it. So don't rely on that unless you have 2 Multipluses, then that's a whole nother situation. But hopefully that helps you understand the basics of the Multiplus and how it works as a hybrid system. The first thing we need to do is empty out this bay because I need to take this wall down so I can get to my electrical. I got my inverter on that side, but we got a lot of stuff in between that we need to do, so we need to empty this thing out and get it all cleaned up so we can get this install rolling. At this point, if you haven't already watched my how to install an inverter video from a few months ago, go ahead and take the time real quick to look at that because there's a few things coming up that I don't really talk about because I talked about them in that first video. So go check that out. It's in the link below. Now that I got this empty, we're going to go ahead and take down this panel because this is where I got some wires hid from the 10 gauge, and then I'm going to be able to take that wall down so we can get our 6-2 wire ran. Now that I got this exposed, I got my converter back here that I'm going to disconnect. But first, just while I'm feeling frisky, we're going to go ahead and run this 6-2 wire that has to go from the panel, which is back in there. So I'm going to first cut this in half because there needs to be a run coming here to the inverter, the Multiplus, and back. So we're going to unwind this and cut it in half. All right, now we got this cut in half. I'm going to try and shoot it down there This is pretty stiff wire, so I should be able to just, actually I'm gonna mark one of them real quick. So I have one for in and one for out. So let me get a piece of tape and we're gonna mark these. Alright, now that I got this marked, I got one with electric tape on the end of it, one without it. I can go ahead and get this wire down there, and on the other end of this I have another thing of electric tape, so I know which, one of the wires is for one thing and the other is for another. I'll decide that here in a few minutes. Alright, so I went ahead and got our wires out down here. Where I fed them in down there, they come in at the bottom there, and I just had to put my hand in there and grab them and pull them out. So now this is ready for what we're going to do up here. But before we get started on that, just to keep power on in the RV, we're going to go back down below. Now that I got my 6-2 wire ran over here, until I go to make all the connections, I'm trying to leave the power on as long as possible. So we're just going to kind of let this dangle here. I got to go ahead and remove my old inverter and battery cables and get those out of the way and ready. So let's go ahead and get that going next. Now I got the old inverter off. I got my DC cabling here, my AC cabling here. I'm going to go ahead and get the Multiplus mounted up and ready to get wired up. So next we're going to go ahead and mount the mounting plate for the Victron, which is going to sit 3 inches below the light. I measured off the light there, or off the Victron, how much space it needs to be able to sit back here before sliding down, and it's 3 inches. So we're going to measure and mount this right over here. All right, before I go and do the rest of these and test this, I'm going to go on the other side of this wall and make sure that I'm clear of any kind of electronics on the other side, because I know I got some stuff on the other side there. We're good on the other side of the wall. I got nothing in the way, so I just want to double check my measurement here. And I actually have 3.5, which is a little overkill, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, because that Victron thing is freaking heavy, and I don't want to be messing with, potentially busting this light. So adding that extra ½ inch is perfectly fine. I'm just going to make sure this is level, and we're going to get this mounted up. Now we're mounted up. Let's try and get the Victron on here. It might be too tight to the wall. This thing with the carpet is really, really tight, but we're gonna see what we can do here. Ta-da! That thing is so freaking heavy. I can't believe it. I'll have to look up the weight of it for you guys, because damn. Transformers in there and all electronics, it is freaking heavy. But now it's on there, it ain't going anywhere. There's also 2 more screws I'm going to put down here at the bottom. All right, I think the earthquakes that we put the RV through when we're going down the road, I don't think they're going to cause any ill effect to this thing. We got it so freaking tight. It's not going anywhere. That is awesome. It's a lot of weight. But all right, next we're gonna work on our wiring. We're gonna get our AC stuff over here, our DC stuff over here, and get that part taken care of. All right, now we got positive negative hooked up. We can go ahead and get our AC going. We can first go ahead and get this stripped and prepped, so we can just get it in and connect it. So let me grab my strippers. I got all my wiring done out here now, and we're getting ready to move inside. So let me just do a quick review for you guys. This line here is the line voltage coming from inside. It is the hot, neutral, and ground. And then going right back to the panel is hot, neutral, ground. That's your AC in, AC out. I have this blue cable here, which is just a standard like Ethernet cable that goes over to my Bluetooth dongle on the side. Off that has a positive and negative, which I have right here. I've not tightened those down yet because I'm gonna put something else on them as well. And obviously we got your negative and positive for the battery to feed the inverter. That's pretty much it. It's pretty basic and straightforward. And let's move inside. We had a little change of plans. So originally, as you can see the power cable here, I had my AC in and out from the inverter going back there to behind the panel, but I just could not get the EMS mounted in there correctly. It just wasn't happening. So what I did was I moved it out here. Here's my shore power coming in down here. So that's my original shore power cord that fed into the back of the panel. I fed that into my EMS, which as you can see is a pretty basic thing. You got hot, you know, leg 1, leg 2, neutral, and ground, and that's pretty much it. Then coming out of it, you have the same thing, leg 1, neutral, leg 2, and the ground is mounted to the side there, except for it goes through these little amp detectors. It detects how many amps are going through. Now, what I did is leg 2 over here, the neutral and the ground come out, and that goes over to the Multiplus, and then from the Multiplus, it goes back to the back of the panel. Meanwhile, leg 2, as you see right here, just goes straight over to the panel and feeds into the other side of the circuit. So leg 2 just goes straight through, while leg 1 goes through the inverter. So I couldn't get Amazon to send me a Group 4D battery box to me in time, so I ordered a Group 8D battery box. It's a little bit bigger, obviously, which is fine. It's just going to have a little bit more space in here for the battery to breathe and stuff, but it's a really nice battery box. So we're just going to go ahead and take this and get it right into our spot here. Let's get these cables up. I just got to move this over so I can get this mounted in here. I got the box in here. I got my cables ran and mounted. The lid should just go right over on top. That's it. On the other side, just comes right through that hole there. I got my positive, negative. This is connected in parallel to add an extra 200 amp hours to my system. As you can see, I got everything loaded back in here, and the box is right back there so I can still access it. Now that everything is done and installed and I put everything back in, let me kind of show you what everything looks like in here. To start off, behind this wall is the EMS that's mounted, and this is the little screen for it. It goes through a little series of operations, kind of shows you how many amps you're pulling from each leg, the frequency of it, if there's any errors. It goes through, you know, leg 1, 120 volts, 16 amps, leg 2, 116 volts, 18 amps. So it shows, and 60 hertz. So it shows you everything, and error 0. So nothing's wrong with it right now. A pretty awesome thing right there. Now over on the other side of the wall is where I got the Multiplus, and I have my old inverter just sitting up top here. I'm going to be selling that. But the Multiplus is sitting here. You got a couple reference lights on it. I don't ever really look at it, because if I look at it through my phone, which is why I have this Bluetooth dongle, because I can look at it through my phone. I also mounted up the USB module for it so that I can access. I just basically unplug from here, plug it in up there, and plug the USB into my computer. And then I can access all the settings, and I can change all the settings. I can change all sorts of stuff in there. There's a whole nother video on that kind of stuff, so I'm not even going to talk about it, but you can basically change every single setting that's in the Multiplus. Then over here, as before, I have my 2 batteries in here, and then you can see the cables that run through the wall to my 3rd battery, and they're all run in parallel, meaning the positives are connected to the positives, it goes out there, connected to positive, and the negatives are connected to the negatives, and everything goes through my battery shunt that goes to my Victron battery monitor. So that's basically everything that's out here. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some tests, and we're going to go ahead and put this thing through a series of operations and kind of show you how it works whether we lose power, I go to generator power, I want to use the hybrid mode and tell it I'm in 15 amps. So we're gonna go through that now. All right, so I got the TV on for you so you can see that the TV's on. You can also see up here, you can see the line voltage and stuff. I'm gonna walk over across the road here and cut power, and you're gonna see that nothing's gonna change. The inverter's just gonna take over and keep everything on. So let me go turn off that power. As you can see, nothing changed. The TV's just running, or is just playing regularly. I just got my notification on my phone that power went out. I'm going to tell you guys about that here in a bit. But you can see up there the EMS system is blank. Nothing's happening. No power is coming in, but we're directly running off the Multiplus. So let me go back over and turn power back on, and you can see what the EMS goes through when power comes on. So right now the EMS is going through and detecting everything, showing that there's no errors, telling me what the line voltage is, what the amperage is and stuff like that. And it's not gonna let power through for about a minute, and then I'll hear it click, and then all of a sudden it's gonna come off inverter. So let me turn this around real quick. You can see right now it says inverter on. Boom, it just switched over to main power, and that's because it went through its little 30-second or 1 minute delay. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it went through its delay and let power flow through it, which sent it to the inverter, which then told the inverter to go back to regular shore power. Before the Multiplus, when I would lose power, whether it was in the middle of the night, middle of the day, whenever it was that you lost power in the RV, I had to physically go turn on the inverter, flip the breakers, and send power back into it. Now, as you can see, nothing happens. I didn't even know that power was lost until I got my text message from my little device inside, which I'm going to tell you guys about here in a bit. And that thing tells me that there's no power, but if I was asleep, I wouldn't even know anything happened. The air conditioner would stay running, all that kind of stuff. Next, I'm going to show you what happens when I turn on the generator. And this is the first time I'm doing this, so we're kind of testing everything out. So I just disconnected power from over there. I still got power on inside because the inverter took over. But I'm going to go ahead and get the generator running and get plugged into the generator and see what happens. All right, so I'm plugged into the generator. Let's get this thing started. All right, so it shows it's putting out its voltage. So let's go check the EMS. All right, so it's showing E2, which is error number 2, which I believe is open ground, but let me check my list real quick. So I was right. I was told E2 is a very common thing. It's called open ground, and it's a problem with generators. You can fix it by creating what's called a bonded plug. I'm not going to do that just because I do have the option to bypass it. I'm going to bypass my EMS, and it should send power right through. Well, there it went. I heard it click over. So it turned off from the inverter, went to regular. Now I went ahead and set this to 13 amps. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like by doing a little screen recording. But I set it to 13 amps so that it doesn't pull more than 13 amps from line 2. Line 1 is still going to pull its own side, which is basically just the main air conditioner. Nothing else is really on at this point in time, like a washer or anything like that. But it's going to pull my regular stuff through, and if it needs extra voltage, say for an air conditioner or something like that, it's going to pull in from the inverter anything over 13 amps. So I went ahead and turned on my air conditioner in the bedroom because that runs through the Multiplus, and there it just went. It went into its assist mode or power assist mode, where the inverter is helping to not let the generator get overloaded. So and there it went back over to the regular power, probably because the compressor is started and it dropped back below 13 amps. So now let's go ahead and look at the screen recording of what that looks like inside Victron Connect. So you can see in the Victron Connect app, you have this little button here in the top left corner that shows 13 amps. You can click on that and change it immediately from 50 amps, 25, 17, 13, or you can physically change it with the plus and minus button or type it in. The reason they have it set up that way is because if you're on a 50 amp circuit, obviously you're fine at 50 amps. If you're on a 30 amp circuit, you want to hit 25 amps because you don't want to push the limit of blowing that circuit in your RV. Same thing with the 17 amps, that's why, for a 20 amp circuit, and the 13 amps is for a 15 amp circuit. So all those are there just for preset quick buttons, but as you can see, you can press the plus and minus button and change it. So I'm going to set it to 10 amps here, and then you'll see it change, boom, 10 amps. And it says it's in bulk charge mode right now. Our AC in is 1100 watts, our out is 860 watts. If I go into detailed, you can see that the current is 9.2 amps and the output is 7 amps. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go inside and turn the air conditioner on, and you'll be able to see what happens when the AC kicks on, and it's going to go over 10 amps because obviously right now it's at 9.2 or 8.9. It'll go over that 10 amps, and the inverter will assist by helping get that air conditioner powered up and started. So let's see how that looks. Oh, here we go, it's already happening. So you can see that it jumped to 14 amps on the output, but it still stayed below 10 amps on the input. Right now it says 6.5, and that's actually just for the fan to come on. Once the compressor comes on, there it is, 25 amps on the output, 0 on the input. That means that it basically just took the full load just to prevent it from blowing from such a massive increase of power. Once it settles out, you'll see it's going to redo its thing and push power back to AC, or you can see the input goes back to 10 amps and the output is still at 21 amps. So it's in power assist mode, just helping get things running. Let's go ahead and take a look, and you can see it shows assisting, but let's look at the battery real quick. So go back to the battery monitor, and you can see that it is currently pulling 154 amps from the batteries. Now, yeah, it's a lot. It's not going to last very long, but again, it's just power assist mode off 10 amps of a circuit just to kind of demonstrate for you guys. Now the AC is off and it drops down to 49 amps, right in that 50 amp mark. Again, still in power assist mode for anything over the 10 amps that I set it to, but now you can see it'll last a lot longer in that condition. You can also see that once it is done with power assist, it immediately goes into bulk charging, and you saw the amps starting to climb up there to 2 and then up to 10 amps. So you go back to the Victron Multiplus and you can see that it is in bulk charge mode, so anything that it's not using out of those 10 amps, the rest of the 10 amps is going to go into bulk charging for the batteries. So the Multiplus is still on bulk charge. It is recharging the batteries. I got the EMS is still bypassed because it's running off the generator, and the generator has that open ground situation. Now, let's say I want to switch back over to shore power. So what I'm going to go ahead and do first is I'm going to put this back to normal use so it starts protecting my RV. And when it does that, it immediately switches over to inverter mode on this side. Let's see if I can get a shot for you. It's back to inverter because shore power is gone again. Now I can come over here and turn off the generator and re-plug in our shore power normally. Very difficult to do one-handed. Let's walk over and get our circuit breaker back on. Now the circuit breaker is back on. The EMS is going to be doing its thing. And again, this TV has never skipped a beat. It has never lost power. Nothing's ever happened to that whole entire leg 2 side of the RV. Boom, shows 0 errors. So here any second now, it'll go through its thing and the inverter will turn off. Oh, there it goes. It's starting. Going back over to regular mode and regular charging mode, or the bulk charge mode. And that's it. We're back on regular power. I love this thing. This thing is awesome. I'm going to go ahead and change it back to 50 amps because now we're on a 50 amp circuit. Back into the Victron Connect app, I can just click on my top left button there. I can just hit 50, bam, hit OK, and that's it. Now it's set to 50 amps, so you see that it changed, and it won't blow the circuit. It'll just keep doing a regular pass-through type thing. It's very difficult to see because it's so dark in here, but right here is this little black box that gets plugged in right down here, which is the same circuit that my washer is on, and the washer is on leg 1. So when I lose power from leg 1, that thing back there sends me a text message and an email alert to my phone, so I know that I've lost power, just so that I know, all right, we're running off the batteries. Let's make sure we are conservative if we need to be. If it's just a power glitch, it's no big deal, but it at least lets me know that I've lost power in the middle of the night, middle of the day, whenever it is. It's a pretty nice feature to have. I'm gonna put a link below to what that thing is on Amazon, and you can see it on there. All right, everyone, that's it for this week's video. Thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to put them in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe, pass the word, share the channel. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Bye.